You're listening to the International Moving Podcast, your guide to moving to another country, brought to you by SDC International Shipping, LA's finest. An international move is exciting. It's a time to start over, establish a new business maybe, reestablish family ties, or retire where your budget will do more for you. Please enjoy today's episode, and if you have any questions about your international move, give us a call at 888-779-3962. That's 888-779-3962. All right, welcome back, everyone. This is Jim for SDC International Shipping. Thanks for joining me, as always, for today's podcast episode. Today we're going to look into the continuing trend of Americans moving to Australia. This is a trend that's over a year old, and it still continues to be building. According to the Australian Bureau of Statistics, the number of Americans relocating down under has been steadily increasing over the last few years. So today we'll talk about why so many Americans are choosing Australia. Of course, we'll also look into the benefits and the importance of having a reputable, experienced international moving company like SDC help you make that kind of move due to the logistics. But let's start with why Americans are moving to Australia. One of the first things that I noticed when looking into what life in Australia was like is the fact that it's not cheap living in Australia, but the Australians seem to make more money. It's kind of like any other places here in the United States. We can talk about New York or California or Chicago. If you're in a city type of environment, the cost of living is going to be higher. Of course, if you have a solid profession or finances isn't so much an issue, then that's not your top consideration. Maybe education is, or career advancement, or maybe you're in a position where you can retire comfortably. These are just some of the reasons why people are moving to Australia. Let's look a little bit behind the trend. There are just some numbers and facts that stand out to me. There's a lot of factors, of course, but the first thing, believe it or not, that people talk about is just the breathtaking scenery. If you're not used to the scenery there and you're coming from our country or many other countries, they say that the scenery in Australia is just incredible. And so I know I live in a subtropical part of the country. I live in Florida. I live in South Florida. And so we experience things here that you don't experience maybe weather-wise in other parts of the United States. But the scenery here is beautiful. Now, I have to say, I've been here for a few decades now, so I don't notice or maybe appreciate the scenery as much as I did when I first got here. But when I leave here and go to other places like the Northeast and I come back, then I have a brand new appreciation for the beautiful scenery in this part of the United States, this part of Florida. But one of the other things people talk about beside the beautiful scenery and landscape in Australia is the clean, organized, and much safer cities. They have lower crime rates there. And if you're an outdoor or an adventure enthusiast, there's an endless amount of things that you can do and enjoy in that country. Australia is known as being a peaceful, multicultural society. They're known for having a world-class healthcare system. They're also known for having a world-class educational system. And one of the other things, I'll call this last but not least, you don't have to learn a new language. Now, for those of you who are speak multiple languages, I think that maybe you grew up that way. I know a lot of the younger people, they learn how to speak Spanish and English, both languages here in the United States, especially like in California, or if they are coming in from another country, first generation Americans here in our current time, you grow up learning English plus whatever language. For example, I have friends that their children know Italian and English. They learn both of them together from a very young age. I think that's incredible. My family came over from Italy, but my parents sort of lost the language. It wasn't really spoke of in the home except between the grandparents. And of course, English is our main language here. But being able to speak two languages, I think, is helpful. And now, if you're going to retire, maybe the thought of learning a new language is a little bit intimidating or a little bit overwhelming. You don't want to do it. And you just think that how important communication is. I think that at this point in my life, anyway, if I had to relocate, and I've talked to other people about this as well, one of the top considerations would be moving to a country where I speak the native language. In this case, it's going to be English. And so, yes, in many places in the world, English is spoken along with whatever language they of the country. For example, if you go to France, many French people also know how to speak English. The same thing with Spain. Many Spaniards also speak English. I believe it's taught in the school. But there are places where you will find that if you don't speak, let's say, for in this example, French or German or Spanish, that you're going to be at a disadvantage. And so I think, and yes, there's apps that will help you translate, but I think you get where I'm coming from. Especially if you're a little bit older, life will be so much easier, and you're going to live the expat lifestyle if you speak the language of wherever it is that you're going to. And that's why English-speaking countries are preferable for many expats based on that alone. So no need to learn a new language. The scenery, the safer, modern cities, low crime rates, and like I said, world-class healthcare and educational systems. All of those things are major drawing points for why Americans are moving there. Now, we can look at making this kind of move. Of course, you're going to need the right kind of visa to go there. Maybe this is going to be a temporary move. You're going to take a few years to see how you like it. Maybe you're going to stay there for a little while. And again, it depends on what type of visa that you have going there. For example, maybe you're going to start a business there. The country of Australia is very business friendly. And if you're going to make an investment there by starting a business, there are certain advantages that you'll have. Some people are going there on student visas, work visas. Maybe a company will transfer you there. Now, when we talk about the actual move, this is quite a long distance when you think about it. There's no way to get around that. But SDC International Shipping, for example, makes that move regularly. So SDC is very familiar with all the ins and outs of customs, how all of that works, what you can take with you, what you can't. And so you're not going to be dealing with a lot of unknown factors. They can handle everything for you from, like I said, from A to Z. And I think that, especially the further the move, having the right kind of support and guidance will make a big difference in making that transition successful and stress-free. So you really don't want to go for a cheap, lower-tier moving company. And there's a lot of moving companies out there. And I think what makes SDC such a good choice for so many people today is the fact that we're not just moving objects, we're not just moving freight, we are moving families. So when we talk about household moves and international household moves, SDC and all the employees of SDC understand how you feel. They understand that maybe you're a little bit nervous because you've never done this before. And so having brought people through this process for the last 15 years on a regular monthly basis, they're able to help you and empathize with things maybe that you're a little bit worried about, much better than, let's say, just a general freight company that packs your belongings and gets them from point A to point B. So with SDC, you can choose, if you want, to have the complete white glove service where it's a door-to-door type of situation. They come to your home, they pack everything, they wrap everything, everything is properly protected. They bring it from your home, it goes out through customs here in the U.S., onto a boat or plane or however you're transporting the freight, whatever makes sense. Sometimes people do a combination of both, air and freight. Air is for the things that need to be there sooner rather than later. And at other times, you're going to need temporary storage in your location country because maybe your residence that you're moving into now is not your final residence but a temporary one. And that's fine too. Like I said, SDC has done this move many, many times each and every year. So they know exactly, in other words, all of the pieces are already in place waiting for you. Nothing is left to chance. So that's what comes down to when we're talking about expertise and experience, having a dedicated support team who has done this exact move multiple times. From there, of course, you want to look at your online reviews. Online reviews are important. One of the places that I like to go to still, even though it's maybe some people might say this is a little bit old-fashioned, but the Better Business Bureau. The Better Business Bureau is the original review site in which if somebody has an issue, it's written out. You can see what the problem was. The company responds to it. Trustpilot is another one. Now, I know that when it comes to online reviews, some reviews can be faked. Some reviews are put there by competitors, knocking companies. I'm not just talking about for international moving. I'm talking about for any product that you can imagine. There's stories of restaurants putting bad reviews onto other restaurants that are competing in their area for the same type of customer, in the same food niche, if you will. Products reviews, not all of them are real. But I would say that today, in 2024, these review services are becoming a little bit better at weeding out the real from the fake or the fake from the real. And so if you go down and you look at, and we're talking about third-party review sites. That's one thing if somebody has their own reviews on their website, they may or may not be real. But if you go and you look up the reviews and you see that of all of the one-star reviews, they're all pointing out a particular problem. And this can be with a product or service or anything. Right now we're applying this type of approach to international moving. Then you know that maybe there is a weak spot in that company's product or service that could very well be real. But when you see like a one-off, like somebody said that they got a rock in their lasagna, and they broke their tooth on it, and they would never go back there again, then you sometimes have to wonder whether that was true or not. But if you see that 4 or 5 people said there was something in their food that shouldn't have been there, then you realize, hey, this kitchen may have a problem. So, and when it comes to international moving, the communication is a huge part of it. And so you want to make sure that you're going to work with a company where you're able to get a hold of someone when you have a question, or if something changes, or if you become aware of something that you weren't aware of before. You can rest assured that with SDC, you have a dedicated support team that's going to be with you through the entire moving experience and following up with you afterward to make sure that everything is okay and that you don't need anything else. So when you look at companies and you're considering a long move like moving to Australia, there's a few things that you can look for. I mentioned the reviews. The next thing would be brokers that are posing as moving companies. So you know what a broker is. They don't actually own the company. They're a middleman between you and a company, and they're just marking up the price and taking the difference, and then they're moving on to the next person. So you have to be wary of brokers that may gain your trust in booking only to hire a third-party moving company for the lowest possible cost to them. So you want to always verify the authenticity of the moving company. And you can do that if you look closely, because there are different, for example, if you go to SDC International Shipping's main website, sdcinternationalshipping.com, you can see there that there is a license number on the top. And then if you look into, in California, the various licensings that SDC International Shipping holds, if you look for the same type of information from a broker, you're not going to find it. And so, yeah, anybody can put up a website or put a toll-free number up, but you just want to do just a little bit of digging, your due diligence. So, all right, back to what we're talking about. Bait and switch is another thing. If you get a low ball quote up front, there's probably something wrong. And if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So you want to beware of quotes that appear too good to be true, because a lot of times these quotes come with hidden costs. Excuse me. So it's important to work with a company that understands what your inventory actually is, that has seen it, and that knows the specific needs that you have to avoid falling for a lowball quote scam. And so, for example, maybe you have a piano, expensive piano that you're shipping, and so that requires a special type of crating and some additional insurance just to make sure that nothing happens. And so on. We could talk about many other types of items in the house that would require special attention. And if you're dealing with a broker, a lot of times they just want to gloss over those things, give you a price, and get you started, sometimes get an upfront deposit, which is another problem. You want to beware or be cautious of companies that require upfront deposits. So a credit card authorization for security, that's fine. That protects the company. But the actual deposit itself could be a red flag. So I would say that for 99.9% of international moving jobs, you should not be required to pay an upfront cash deposit of any kind. Of course, there's poor online reviews. We already talked about that. And then another thing, the lack of a professional comprehensive quote. You want to make sure that whoever you use, they're going to provide a comprehensive quote for your shipment to Australia. So you want to be cautious of any company that does not provide that kind of itemized proposal that you can look and see, okay, this is what I'm getting, this is how much it costs, and so on. Now, of course, if things change, that proposal can change also, but you understand where I'm coming from. Now, currently, we're talking about moving to Australia. Let's talk about some of the most popular destinations for expats. Number 1 is Sydney. Number 2 is Melbourne. Then we have Adelaide, Perth, Canberra, Brisbane. Let me go. I have a whole list here. Let me just go through it. The Blue Mountain region, the North River region, Hobart and Tasmania, and then finally Newcastle. So all of these areas are very popular areas because they have all of the amenities that people could be looking for. They have all of the lifestyle choices are available there. If you're like an outdoor person, you like that. If you like the city life, if you enjoy art culture or the foodie culture, you can find that in places like Sydney and Melbourne and Brisbane. If you're more of you don't want to live in the city, but outside the city, there are areas there. In other words, there's something for everyone. Just like many other countries, there's something for everyone. But you also get a lot of the positives that we talked about earlier that come with it. Low crime rate, having a low crime rate is something that is more important to more people today than ever before. Especially when you're talking about going to another country because you've never lived there before. And even if you've spent some time there before, the times change, the people change, and it's good to know that, at least as of this recording, Australia has a very low crime rate. Now, I'm sure that if you ask some people living there who live in, maybe impoverished areas or the ghettos, I mean, every country has those kinds of areas, and of course, those aren't the areas that you're going to be moving to or wanting to go to. So there's that too. We don't want to make any place, I guess you could say in some ways, and maybe this depends on the person, but there's no such thing as like a paradise on earth, but maybe there's the closest thing for you. And so that will vary from person to person. So let's talk a little bit about the shipping process itself. When you're going to make a long distance international move, this is extra important as you get started in the process of securing a company to make this kind of move for you. Everything starts with a visual survey. So conducting a visual survey is going to be crucial for the company to understand what your needs are and what your inventory is. And so if they don't do a visual survey, now of course today there's different ways to do a visual survey. You can have someone come out to your home and you can walk them through room by room and show them everything it is that you're moving, things that need to be packed, any items that may be, you may have a little extra concern about. Or you can also do the same thing via a Zoom call or an app. There's apps that you can download, put on your phone. They can connect with the people at SDC International Shipping, and then you can kind of walk people through and visually show them what it is that you're moving, any items that you have that are a concern. So there's different ways to do it today. Of course, we have the professional quote that I talked about later, earlier. And then from there, everything goes to an order for service. The order for service is a document that initiates the shipping process. It spells out the details, including the price, what's included, and what's excluded. And then from there, you will get, now this is how we work here at SDC International Shipping, you'll be assigned an internal support expert for the country of Australia. And they are assigned to you to be there to provide you constant communication and guidance as you go through the whole process. So that's the person that you're talking to. And then from there, the packaging and the pickup occurs. So that includes the professional packing. They come out to your home. Everything is wrapped. Everything is protected, all the household goods. And then from there, the shipment of your household inventory takes place. So the shipment, of course, goes through customs and the customs clearance at the destination port of entry into Australia in this situation, and then the final delivery where everything leaves the port. All your household goods arrive at your destination residence. All your furniture is reassembled. All the trash is cleaned up. And there you are in your new home. Your first night there, I'm sure you're going to get a good night's sleep. So hopefully you're not stressed out by other things, not having to do with moving the items, but maybe getting settled in a new country. So let's talk about some final thoughts about this kind of move. Let's look specifically into Australia. So you're going to need necessary documents, and SDC and the support team will help you with getting those necessary documents that you're going to have in place in order to ship your household goods, in order to clear customs, and in order to have all of your goods delivered to your new residence in Australia, be it a temporary one or permanent one. In some cases, some things may be delivered to storage temporarily. You want to be aware of restricted and prohibited items. Australia is strict with customs regulations, and some items are banned outright, while others can be restricted and require prior approval. So in this case, you would consult SDC for specific information regarding what may be shipped, what can be shipped, or what's questionable, or what can outright not be shipped or transported. Now, when it comes to packing and protecting your household goods, there's a standard and a special enhanced protection service for your goods. So you can choose between having everything fully and professionally packed for you. You can do self-packing, or you can choose a hybrid option. And just so you know, in order for the insurance company to cover your items, that specific item would have to be professionally packed in order to be covered by insurance. That's basically how the insurance works. Of course, you're going to talk to people about that item specifically, or those items, when it comes to that topic before you make the move. Insurance is one of those things where you can spend as much or as little as you want. So most people will insure the things that they feel are irreplaceable or hold sentimental value. They'll place extra insurance on them. Some people do an all or nothing type of situation where they just have a basic coverage in case of a catastrophic event, which rarely happens. It happened here in the United States with the boat hitting the bridge over the last 12 months. I forgot what month that happened in now, but that's just an example of a catastrophic event. They're few and far in between, thank God. Specialty items, you don't have to worry about. Pianos, billiard tables, fine art, valuable collectibles. SDC knows how to handle specialty items. If you're using another company, you have to make sure that they have experience handling specialty items. We have shipping by ocean or air, of course. Household shipments to Australia are usually shipped by ocean freight, but air shipping is also available. When it comes to things like shipping a car or motorcycle, those things can be shipped inside of containers. SDC recommends that if you're going to ship a car or motorcycle to Australia, that you ship it within a container along with your other household goods, depending on what type of volume you have as far as your household goods. You may be able to use a 20-foot container, or you may need a 40-foot container. But you also need to check into the regulations for your specific vehicle, because it may not be worth it to financially pay all the extra fees, taxes, and duties that are attached to certain types of imports like vehicles. And then there's compliance regulations too also that you need to consider. So I know people are attached to cars and motorcycles, more so motorcycles, believe it or not, today than it seems cars. But it may not be worth it to bring it over. It may be worth it either to, leave it here, sell it, or, maybe put it in storage with a relative so you don't have to pay those high monthly fees. Now there's pet relocations. You can bring, most pets are allowed into Australia. So SDC will help you navigate. There's very strict rules in doing this to make sure that you want to have all your paperwork necessary, including vaccines and papers and things like that. Maritime insurance is what I was talking about earlier when I was talking about total loss or full coverage insurance options, or something, a hybrid approach to insuring different things. And that's what covers your possessions from door to door. And the nice thing about professional packing is that in most cases, there's times where things can go wrong, but most cases everything is going to be fine. Everything's going to leave and be shipped and arrived and be reassembled. Everything's going to look exactly in the same condition it was as when it was originally packed. Everything's going to be fine. But that's the reason why people purchase insurance. It's for those rare times, right? It's like you purchase insurance for a car, sometimes because you have to, especially if it's an older car, but you hope you never use it. But in case you need it, it's there. That's why it's called insurance, to give you that extra peace of mind. Now, one last thought that came to mind was healthcare in Australia. Australia has a public healthcare system. It's available to permanent residents, but many expats opt for private health insurance, and that gives them additional coverage. Others opt for international health insurance. It covers them as they move from country to country, and it ensures that wherever they are, that they get English-speaking doctors and nurses and specialists. And so I would say that when it comes to the actual healthcare, especially as a foreigner moving in to another country, that it appears that the international healthcare or the international healthcare insurance is the most popular. All right, so I think that covers it for the country of Australia. If you've ever seen Australia on the cities on the map and the location, you know that, of course, it's just a huge landmass there. I mean, it's a big country, it's a big continent, and it has, I think, a little bit of everything for everyone. Again, they speak English there, but the jobs pay well. And there's a reason why people have been attracted to going there over the past several years. It's a welcoming country, and I think that maybe some of you it would be, who knows, a good fit for. So I think that does it for today. This is Jim. Thanks so much for listening. If you haven't heard our weekly episodes, Laura Lee puts a new episode out starting on Tuesdays through Saturdays. I'm back again on Mondays. I hope you enjoy this podcast. If you do, please share the link. Please share an episode with a friend. That helps us reach new people. There's a lot of podcasts out there today, so it's great when you can help us reach people who we might otherwise never be able to reach. So thank you for listening, and I will see you in next Monday's episode.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks for listening. Whether you're relocating within the country or moving to the other side of the world, we're here to help from start to finish. Connect with us today at 888-779-3962. That's 888-779-3962.